Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Macro Golf Podcast. I'm Jack and I'm joined by Joe and Sam as always.
Yo.
How we doing?
How we doing, boys? All right?
All good.
Good.
All good.
So, today, boys, we're going to be having a little bit of a discussion about the golf swing. As always talking about golf and golf swing. Golf pervs love it. And sort of trying to make people understand when maybe we should address the golf swing, the issues in your golf swing. Should we address the issues in the golf swing? The timing we should do things. Because, people always want to jump to changing golf swings. The first thing people want to do to try and improve. And often that sometimes isn't the first port of call. But we'll sort of try and discuss that and try to identify when the timings are. So we all go through our own experiences. Obviously, we have clients we go through and we discuss with, trying to understand the timings they should take to change their golf swings and maybe change other things and try to, improve them the best way we possibly can. So, Joe, your timing of changing the golf swing, you've done that in the past. We've done that in the past together. Now it's probably not so much that. I think you would agree. We probably don't do that as much. But what are maybe a couple of the key aspects that come with changing the golf swing? And run them through sort of the timing of when you did that and what it was like. Let's go through that to start with.
Yeah, good question. Thanks for throwing me straight in.
Yeah, you're right. No worries.
So, yeah. Look, I think we need to maybe first of all determine what actually changing the golf swing is and how we would even map that out. Because I think I'm always kind of changing my golf swing in some way. I'm always maybe trying to keep on top of certain things or improve certain things or manage certain things. So it kind of is changing the golf swing. Like your golf swing kind of will always evolve. I don't think it's ever going to completely look the same. But I suppose what you're leaning into there is more bigger changes. People might call them swing changes or like an overhaul of your golf swing and kind of this idea of breaking it down and building it back up again and coming back with a new swing. I don't think I've ever completely torn it fully apart. I don't think that's possible, to be fair. I don't think anyone's actually fully changed their golf swing from start to finish and completely removed their DNA. I think people have tried, and I think people have had periods of playing golf with completely transformed golf swings. But I don't think it ever lasts. I think eventually people revert, whether that's on purpose or unconsciously, back to some kind of DNA of their golf swing in some way. But yeah, we've made a few changes to make my golf swing. I think, one of the things is always understanding that why. So I think we've had good reasons for any changes we've made to my golf swing over the past. We've always had decent reasoning for that. And I'll go as far. I think maybe I'm doing a bit of a disservice to the work we've done, but a lot of the stuff that we've done has been around setup. It's been around feelings. It's been around intention of shot and altering the environment to make those changes. So I can't think of times where, again, I just don't. There's definitely personal experience for me because as I've had arguments with you in the past, I just don't respond well to things like positions in backswing or positional stuff. Just really doesn't bode well with me at all. I just don't get it. So we've always worked on ideas of setup, intention, external focus, and feels, which I think is twofold. One, it's quicker in my eyes. So I think the change we've seen quite significant changes in a short amount of time, and also I think it allows you to find your way around that. So yeah, I don't think I've gone through maybe what Sam's going through now. I don't think I've been to that level. Not with you anyway. Maybe earlier in my golfing journey. Maybe I did do that without thinking about it too much. But yeah, I don't think in the last 5 years, I don't think I've gone through a transformation that Sam's currently going through. But if you saw my golf swing from 5 years ago,
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
not the current golf swing.
No,
If you
that's
saw my golf
definitely
swing
true.
from two
Yeah.
years ago, it is not the same golf swing.
Yeah, for
And I'd
sure.
also say if you actually put up two videos of last year to this year, I actually think my
Yeah.
golf swing has
Yeah,
changed quite a lot
probably
in the
true.
last 12 months as well. So yeah, without kind of consciously going through this like rip it apart, start again, I think my golf swing has changed. We've kind of had reasoning for that, and I'm excited to talk tonight about some ideas around when that is the right thing to do it, if it is the right thing to do it, how that can be done, and the many different ways that you can actually do that, to try and apply some ideas into people that are listening.
For sure. So you picked up on a point there saying when a golf swing should be changed. And this has many avenues you can go down. I think the key thing people should always remember is number one reason not to change a golf swing is purely for aesthetics. Changing things just so it looks better, so it looks more like the current player is playing fantastic golf at the moment. That's a thing I see a lot. So let's go to the point of when Dustin Johnson was playing well. A really big thing was trying to bow the wrist, trying to everyone just trying to bow their wrists, and that was the popular thing to do at the time. And it really showed no relevance in most people's games because for what that doesn't suit people's fundamentals and their matchups, and it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work towards a lot of people who play this game. So I think the number one thing for me as a coach, a golf coach, it's when ball flight or strike or some sort of impact factor is being affected or compromised, then perhaps you can start to look towards a golf swing focus which we can change in order to make a progress on that factor. And that can sometimes be a swing feel, or sometimes, as we say, which Joe was covering, that might even be a change of intention. That might even be a change of, tee height, those sort of ideas. It doesn't have to always be a massive fundamental change. It can sometimes be something quite simple where we're just plain and simply changing, using sort of like the impact laws to then change the ball flight in turn, which is always the end goal. You guys have also in your job, your sort of role, you will also have potential times where you might suggest a swing change. Would you be able to name a time where that might happen? Anyone? Joe? Sam?
It's a good question. I think both me and Joe try to only step in if it's like an absolute necessity. And the only real reason I can think of is injury, is potential risk of injury. If someone has a reoccurring injury physically and their move is really affecting that and making it worse and having a knock on effect to day-to-day life, then I might say, right, we might have to look at changing this move with a coach. I would say I will never suggest anything. I will work with either, if it's one of our clients, obviously with Jack, or if they've got another coach, then work with their coach and actually say, look, they're putting too much pressure into their left hip inside bend, body can't deal with it, they're flaring up afterwards, can't play, can't practice, we might need to look at loading patterns, etc., etc., etc. Other than that, Joe, I don't know if you would disagree. I don't know if I would ever suggest to change someone's move.
Yeah, I actually had a situation fairly recently, of this is something you see quite a lot anyway, but it's like a guy who's had one of my clients who's had the same swing coach for years and years and years. They've been working together for loads of years, and they kind of always work on the same stuff. People think that they know that person, so you kind of get a little bit like, we know what you're working on, we're going to still work on the same stuff, whatever. But this guy actually went through quite a big transformational body improvement where he actually lost a good amount of weight, gained significant amounts of mobility, started strength training, was doing no training before, now trains 3 times a week, got stronger, gained movement, and his whole physical capabilities have changed. But when I asked questions about the golf, nothing really had changed. That's where I kind of had that conversation with him and said, well, look, let's chat to the golf coach. Let's see what's going on, because you are not the same golfer you were a year ago. And therefore you have the capabilities to make your move better. You don't necessarily need some of those conversations you had before. And unless you start to push yourself out of them, you'll just remain in that current pattern that you're in that suited you when you had those restrictions, where now we've got new capabilities that you can start to lean into. We've got new realms of you actually starting to make your golf swing way more efficient, way more powerful, way more athletic, because you now can do that. But yeah, that's kind of like the other example. I suppose the two big ones are definitely when we think that swing is causing some kind of issue in terms of pain or harm on the body, and then also if we feel like there is athleticism there that isn't being utilized from our probably fitness standpoint. That's the second point where I'd say, hang on a minute, like, why are you only swinging it that fast? Like, you got all of this power, all of this potential, you're hitting nowhere, or you're still having to like make all these compensations. So it then becomes a discussion of like, you are not the same golfer you were a year ago. What's going on, basically?
Yeah.
Why are you not getting better?
The other thing, the other thing potentially I might talk to a client about was if they're trying to explain their ideal move or what they are trying to get into certain position, and maybe physically at the moment they just cannot do that. They don't have the mobility or the strength to do that. Then I might say like, but that's more. That's more me maybe explaining this is why you are finding this move quite hard, because I don't believe you have the capabilities to actually get into this position, rather than saying, right, stop doing it completely. Like, actually then trying to build some mobility and strength into the movement that might make it a little bit easier to get into, rather than maybe that's different to changing.
I suppose. Yeah, no, I think that is true. And I think the last one, just on like our point before we start diving into I'd say the more interesting, fun stuff, because this is like the boring, like, oh, let's be all protective and let's do whatever. But if someone has had an issue and then or had surgery and then had whatever, so suddenly then they actually need to change their golf swing to just match what they then can physically do. So I've seen that a few times where people, good players, typically, this is a good example, they then have something happen to them and they just want to go back to what they were doing before, swinging the golf club the same as they were before, and it's just not possible, right? We've had obviously the great example of that is when you watch the Masters now with all the old players that come out, and you can still see tendencies of their old moves. It's so cool to watch. But they just can't do the exact same thing because of all the things that have happened to them over the years. So it'd be mental for us to say, like, you're just going to stay swinging the same. No, they've had to go through a swing change of adapting to what they can now currently do. So I suppose that's the other example, which sometimes in that is not as people think that happens gradually. It doesn't often. Normally there's one tragic moment that then jumps people into a new realm, and then they kind of hold on. Another tragic moment throws them. So it's not as gradual as you think. You don't just kind of like, I think people think that you'd maybe wake up one day and be like, oh, what happened to my golf swing? No, quite often these things, people have surgeries or they have injuries or they have things that put them back quite a long way, and they just never then get back there. So yeah, that's probably the other one is, having to match your physical capabilities.
That's very much Tiger Woods, right? That's the sort of
there you go. It's a great example, right? It's had to rebuild
example.
every single time, right? Not through choice, but through necessity. And
had to find another way to make that body somehow work to be able to get the ball somewhat towards the hole. And luckily, he's an absolute genius and could find a way, right? But
and it's my argument. People say that like the physical capabilities don't matter in golf, right? That golf's game skill. It's only a game of skill. Well, if it wasn't, Tiger would still be number one, right? 100%. There are physical constraints that we have, and we need to manage those as best we can and build swings around it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's dig into the golf side. So, Jack, I'm gonna pass this over to you. This was me as an example. You noticed tendencies in my swing, strike pattern, dispersion that potentially indicated to you, right, we need to have a look at this and rebuild it, change some things. What were the first steps in doing that? Maybe don't use just me as an example, but any golfer that you get coming in, you notice the same sort of things. As a coach, what would be the first port of call for that?
Okay. So it always starts with one thing. We play a game with a little white ball, and that's the only thing that matters, right? So literally just judging where the ball's going, looking at where the ball's going, um, dictating what's happening with the ball flight, understanding all the little like things then which come into impact. So you then bring it back. So let's say, I mean, I won't use this as a perfect example. Like let's go. We got a guy who is um, he's got a consistent pull hook, right? So it just starts left to target, continues moving left, right? That is a consistent error in the ball flight. Now, sometimes it's not always that easy. Sometimes you get a more inconsistent. But let's say that there's an issue there. So you then break it down into what's actually the problem. So the fact that it's a pull starting left to target, there's going to be a face issue in there. And then obviously you have a path that is traveling right of that face. If it's not a strike issue, so you tend to always go with strike first because strike is depending on the club will always affect the curvature of the golf ball as well. So strike is always first. Strike is always king. Strike is very, very important when it comes to coaching because if striking isn't good, it's very hard to tell what's actually going on. To be honest, you can't just tell something just because it looks like something. Ball flight is always the biggest indicator. So if the ball's doing something and it's because they're actually towing the ball, we can't really dictate what's happening until they start finding the center of the face. That's quite an important aspect of coaching. So basically, I always go them, and then I bring back go to impact, and then if impact's an issue, which obviously it's going to be an issue because you've got a closed face and a path going right of it. Why? Why is that the issue? Is it something to do with the downswing? If it is something to do with the downswing, is that downswing then being caused by something in the backswing? Is that backswing then being caused by something in the setup? Is always kind of the route I'll take on. Obviously, take away in those transitional ideas. You have to find. You always have to dig deep. It's never as simple as people want to make it out to be. The golf swing is a complex beast. It's a complex thing. Everyone has their own complexities. You it's a confusing game, and we all think because we swing, I don't know, someone swings over the top, your fix is going to be the same as another person swings over the top. It's just not factually true. It's a much more confusing game than that, and the golf swing is a much more confusing thing than that. So yeah, it's identifying that and then making sure there's a reason for everything that we are doing to change the golf swing, which I think is massive for people listening. Because if you're trying to change something on your own and you're doing it because you saw someone on YouTube say it, that's probably not enough reason to start changing your golf swing. Definitely not enough reason to start changing your golf swing because they are not giving you direct advice. You are just trying to find advice that you think suits you and you hope suits you, and hopefully it will sort you. But in actual fact, that usually isn't the case, as I think most people listening have
Let
probably
me
found out as
just
one time or another. Go ahead.
absolutely. I just want to add something to that as well. That right, it's
Hmm.
not only YouTube. Like even if you hear a professional player
Hmm.
on a video say something, do not think just because
Hmm.
he's the top five world player then that's going to relate to you and make your swing
Hmm.
better. Like it has. If the word is relatable, it has to be specific to you. Um, all these fantastic players have their own like complete different blueprints, complete different ways of swinging the club. That what
Hmm.
might work for Bryson is going to make
100%.
you swing 10 times worse, 100 times worse. But just because they've achieved whatever they have in the golf world, people say, "Oh, but he's doing it, so it must be right."
Hmm.
It might work though, might it? And that's the one.
It still might
That's the
work.
one. And I think what happens is they do like quite often when people are doing this, they do find that one and that
Yeah.
and they hit
Yeah.
them at the range, and then those last 20 balls. Oh boy, it's
And
going
all
on.
their
And they
and
turn
all
up
their
on a
friends are going to
Saturday and they
hear
go,
about it, and yeah,
yeah,
it's all the magic move. They found it. Yeah, well done
exactly.
them.
And then they tee it up and shoot a million.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's and the reason that is because they start doing that block practice. They start getting into a rhythm of it. It's not a transferable skill at that point, right? There's so much more to it than just golf swing. Um, this game isn't that simple, unfortunately. Be awesome if it
Well,
was.
this was the question I was going to ask you, Jack, because this one's been bothering me for a long time now. You know, sometimes I get these little things under my head, and I just can't let them go, and they just irritate me. So this is one of them, right? So the more that I've played this game, and the more that I've spoken to a lot of people around this game, and the more time I've spent around this game, I've realised that there's like not many shots in a round of 18 that we hit that we would call a stock shot, right? So it's not many times that you kind of stand up to a golf ball and be like, I'm just going to do my driving range 7-iron or whatever it is, right? And I think maybe as you get better, that becomes more like you have fewer of those because you have more visualization goes on, you're trying to hit different shots, you're trying to, you have a little bit more variability. So I appreciate that probably is a little bit more of like, as you advance, this probably does become a bit more of a concept. But most swing changes or swing drills or these things that you see are based on you having a 7-iron and making a swing change with an iron, right? But there's like so few shots per round that you actually hit that, right? So many of it is wedge shots. How many people do a wedge swing change? No.
Yeah.
I didn't see him. You might see him because you coach
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Right. Speaking to golf, no golf coach goes, I'm going for my wedge swing change, whatever.
Yeah.
If they're going for a swing change, they're doing it with their iron, and then they hope that that's going to transfer across to other stuff, right? And the same with the driver as well. I think people spend a lot of time working on the driver, but understanding that it is a specialist shot and there is some differences that driver. So when we talk about making a swing change or having a swing or changing your swing, I think I don't know what swing it is that we're trying to change because there's a million different swings that we're making. Depending on the shot we're trying to hit, how high we're trying to hit it. Are we trying to hit it low, high, low spin, high spin, left, right? What are we trying to do? And I always sometimes struggle in my head to think which one of those are we changing when we are making a swing change.
100%.
I don't know if you can even give an answer to that. Wasn't even a question in the end.
No, I understand. So I think what we're trying to change, and to be honest, if you're only trying to change just your baseline swing, you're going to a poor lesson, in my opinion. That's not the only thing you need to be looking at. It's different shots, it's different styles of shots. It's understanding how to change the fundamentals of what you're doing and set up to then be able to adapt said flight to make it usable on the golf course, right? Like, I know what you mean. Like, yes, you go to a lesson, they give you these changes, which in theory is then going to change whether it be club path, face angle, dynamic loft, wherever it's going to be, it's going to change that, right? And that for me is changing the baseline. So that's changing the stock, the standards, the average, right? And then you need to then give the player as a coach the understanding of how to adapt that in order to change the shot. So, for example, I've changed. Let's say I change your weight transfer in order to move more efficiently in the irons. Uh, you were moving too heavily. I measure you on force plates, and you're pretty much 100% of the weight on the left foot. Very exaggerated, but it's all on the left foot throughout the whole entire golf swing, and you just then back up. You apply too much force early, and it causes you all sorts of issues. So we get you in a place where we start transferring the weight a little bit more evenly. We start doing it into a little bit more, which is suited towards you and your body style. And it's better. Your stock is better. And then we have to be able to say, right, when you're playing a shot into wind and you want to bring the flight down, you might in turn start to load up that left-hand side a little bit more, not as much as you were doing, but a little bit more than maybe what you would do in your stock swing, right? So you have to be able to, as a coach, present them with different environments where they might have to change that. But that's kind of why people who come for maybe just one lesson and hope it's going to fix all are in massive denial. Like, that's like, this game is so complex. Like, you could talk every single day to a golf coach and you can learn everything. You can learn something new. And a golf coach could go talk to another golf coach and learn something new. Like there's so much to this game. We're constantly trying to develop our knowledge as a golf coach in order to provide as much information to the client as possible. Um, and and provide it in the simplest way possible so that you can understand it and be able to transfer it into some sort of skill on the golf course. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm not sure that's how to properly answer your question, but it's
It wasn't even like it's an impossible question to answer.
yeah.
I suppose, like it's my favourite time. But you probably get people then that like are hitting wedges and irons really well, but not hitting
Yeah,
driver really well.
100%.
So then, like,
Yeah.
do you call that a swing change? I don't know, because you're not really changing. Why is that driver not performing well? Is it because they don't understand the concept of hit and driver? Is it
Okay.
because there's fear involved? Is it because the bigger face then or like the more variance then exposes the weaknesses that can't be seen in a wedge game? So like, I suppose my question with this is like, when we just talk about making a swing change, I just don't think we can be that one dimensional in our thoughts of I need to make a swing change. I think there's just so many more.
Correct.
Like
Yeah.
it's so multifactorial. Like it's
I think you used the word understand there, Joe, and I think that's what a good coach, or if you are going through swing change, that's what you're doing is you're changing your understanding of your move and your movements and why X equals Y essentially. And a good
Yeah.
coach should, and that's what Jack has done definitely with me, is that potentially even if I can't put the move on the ball that I want to, I am understanding why I have that tendency for that move, and then I've got a better understanding of how to try and correct it. And then with that, I can toy with, like you said, the thousands of different shots that we have when we play a round of golf, and it's hopefully developing your understanding each time of right, fine. So I tried this, now let's try that, and this is why. Rather than the guesswork, where I just speak to so many golfers that are just guessing, like going through a proper swing change, I think is increasing your actually understanding of the game. Like you both touched on that.
I couldn't agree more. To be fair, yeah, the understanding aspect is I think I do believe it's quite crucial for every player. Like, doesn't mean you got to understand like the ins and outs of like I don't know, going into spin loft, angle of attack, like all these different things. But understand what's essential to you. Understand what makes you do things well, and understand exactly why and a certain motion might happen. Or, for example, what tendencies make you hit the ball right? What tendencies make you hit the ball left? What tendencies make you hit the ball out the toe? Understanding all these things allow you then to identify it on the golf course, maybe change it on the golf course, find a feel on the golf course, and when you're faced with a certain shot, what feel might eradicate the left, right? That's a really important skill which great players have. Like, if they can't hit a shot, most of the time, unless they're in a high pressure situation, they can usually avoid that situation, right? And like, obviously, in a high pressure situations, things get heightened, and you tend to make mistakes, and you can't always control your body as well as you possibly could in a more controlled environment. But that is why understanding is super, super important, in my opinion. It just allows you to adapt while you're out there and be your own well, not be your own coach, but be your best friend out on the golf course, and really help yourself, and allow yourself to score as low as possible while out there and adapt.
Here's one for you.
Mm-hmm.
To get our brains going on this
Go on.
Monday night. So, let's say a player hits it well on the driving range.
Yeah.
And even to the point, let's stretch this even further. Even to the point where they're good through the bag, right? So through all different types of shots, they can start to hit on the driving range, to their level, and they can do a bit of random work on the driving range as well. They can kind of vary some stuff around. They're pretty well accomplished on the driving range. But when they get to the golf course, a different swing emerges, And let's say we pin that to changes that actually are happening in measurable data. So like I've actually seen this, right? I've actually I won't mention who it is, but you actually know the person. It's not Sam. It's not Sam. It wasn't that like that close. That's why I'm not mentioning.
It's that.
But you can act like if you were actually to put actually to get the numbers, their face and path relationship actually changes on the golf course.
Yeah.
Talk me through that. Have you seen that? Because I've seen it.
My God, every day of my life. Yeah, I see it. Every yeah, every
And
course.
this is where people think that they need a swing change, right? So this would be like,
Yes,
obviously, this swing is obviously. So that's
yes.
my point. Is like they believe that because they're seeing that on the golf course, they need a swing change. They need to change their swing because it is not performing for them on the golf course.
Yeah.
Tough one.
Yeah. No, I've got an answer. I'll be careful what I say because the the guy I'm going to use listens to the podcast. So, and he'll know I'm talking about him. He will know I'm talking about him. But he's a very good golfer. He's a very good golfer. Hello, you. So he's a great player. Would be the best golfer at pretty much most golf clubs you go at, right? Like he is a very good golfer. And there are tendencies in his golf swing which he doesn't love. I get why he doesn't love them, but he also can perform to a very high level with them. Now, when he gets to a environment that maybe stresses him out a little bit more, a higher level tournament than maybe he's used to playing in, all of a sudden, the golf shot stops performing quite up to the level he expects from himself. Okay. Now, as a good player, and I've been a good player, and I've had coaches while doing it, you tend to message the coach and you say, we need to change and re-scrap and change everything. And I get that. I get it. I get it. It feels at the moment like you need to change the world at that point. When in actual fact, I can almost guarantee what the biggest thing they would benefit in that exact scenario where they are struggling in a bigger environment where anxiety and stress is to be honest the number one reason for change. That is the number one reason why things are changing. They need to learn to control their emotions, their pre-shot routine, their understanding of what to do when their body feels different. Because at a higher level, you're going to notice that I shouldn't even say at a higher level, at a level where it makes you feel uncomfortable. So some people, that's literally just stepping foot on the golf course. Some people, that is playing in club championships. Some people, that's playing national events. Some people, that's playing the Masters, back nine of the Masters. Roy McIlroy, those sort of vibes, right? Sorry, Joe, no more Roy McIlroy stuff. But like the that is to me, if you can do it in an environment on the golf course, right, in practice, you can do it, right? You can do it. And I'm not saying that a slight swing change and a slight swing improvement wouldn't help, and it wouldn't possibly improve functionality at under pressure. But usually, if it completely collapses under a bit of pressure, there is usually more upstairs, more mentally than what you think needs to be changed. So it's not necessarily has to be a technical aspect just because the shots start going out the window and they start going terrible. It's more often than not your thought process starts to become wavered by bad thoughts, start to become very outcome based. I mean, if I was you, this sounds like you, I would really start thinking about what you're thinking, what you're feeling before the golf shot. Really try to be honest with yourself. Really try to be honest with what you're thinking and what you're seeing, what you're actually trying to do with the golf shot. I guarantee most people, almost 95% of people, will get very, what I call internal. So they will get very focused on their golf swing. They will get very focused on controlling the move, and they will stop becoming athletic, natural, what makes them probably very good at golf on a normal day when they're on their own. they lose that and they become too outcome situational based. And that's one of the things which I think people think makes them need to change their golf swing. But in actual fact, they need to change and sort their pre-shot, their post-shot, their just whole mental game when they play. But yeah, that's
I feel like you need to get that off your chest. So sounds like
yeah.
a yeah, yeah,
That to me is yeah yeah, pretty big one, pretty big
yeah.
one, yeah, pretty big one. I deal with players, good players, all the time, and that is the most common thing that happens. They play bad in the tournament, which is higher than their usual thing, and they feel like the whole swing needs to change.
Yeah.
And it's not.
And I think that that's not even just for the good players, right? As you
Yeah,
said, like you get someone turn up in their monthly medal and they shoot a million and they think, oh my god, I need to go for a golf lesson, or I need to do this, or I need to go for a putting lesson, or I need new clubs, or I need what. It's the same all the way through. And actually, this guy, it wasn't that. It was actually he just set up was just off the charts. Just could not get himself set up
okay,
to hit the golf shot.
yeah,
Well,
His just alignment was just absolutely all over the
yeah,
place,
yeah,
and he was just having to like pull,
yeah, that's very
slice
normal
everything
too,
to
right?
try and get back onto target, right? So you get him on the driving range, he's hitting these nice draws, get him onto the golf course, and he's having to like yank this thing back left to try and get back onto target. So his whole golf swing fell apart simply because he just could not set himself up
Interesting.
to hit a shot.
And
yeah.
why do you think that may have been?
Probably just lack of understanding of having a process to align himself. Probably
Yeah.
the idea of like not picking an intermediate target, or
Yeah,
not
because
understanding, or not practicing, or
yeah,
not on a driving range mat, or
yeah,
all the
exactly,
simple stuff. Then go and
exactly.
like suddenly you think like that guy probably is standing there thinking, "My God, I need to go for another golf lesson." Actually, like they probably do need to have some kind of lesson, but showing you that type of stuff, not showing you
Yeah,
more swing change stuff
Yeah.
that's not going to have any type of transfer.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, and I think that's quite common, isn't it? Like you go from a flat driving range mat with four, well, it's just a square, isn't it? It's a square
Yeah.
that aligns you perfectly down the range.
Yeah.
And then you go to a golf course which has zero alignment, has slopey lies, and we have to try and adjust. And we haven't practiced that, and we haven't had a lesson on that. And that
Yeah.
is, again, something we need to do
And the best
over.
example of that is someone who doesn't listen to this podcast, who's my dad. He's the best example of that. You get him on any type of sideline, he just
You just
F's
get
and curses that
confused.
he fatted it. I think, yeah, so no surprise. Yeah, yeah.
Just send him that
I don't think he listens. Yeah,
clip. He might
find
do.
out.
Yeah.
Soon find out if he does. Yeah. Sam, I've got a question for you actually. As someone who is now coming in, we spoke about this on a more recent podcast, but as someone who's kind of coming out of that swing change journey, now the season is coming in, starting to play a little bit more golf, a little bit less, trying to make changes. What's been your kind of experience of making such a? This is probably like the biggest structure of change I think you've probably had. Like you've actually had some accountability, discipline for this structure change. What's that experience been like for you? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that have also been through recent changes in their golf swing and had the same kind of, you know, it's tough, right? It's not easy to try and make changes. So they probably had the same experiences
Oh,
you had. So how was that
it's
journey for you?
been yeah, it's been super hard, and as someone that has always valued like the understanding of my body and where it is in space and time as being quite good, given like my background in sports and dance and other things like that. This has been the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And then you kind of have those like ebbs and flows of weeks where you feel like right, you've got it, and then you try and take it onto the course, and then it's not there, and then you go back to the range and you find it, and then it's just like I wouldn't say it's. I mean, there's definitely sometimes it's one step forward, two steps back, but I think that's all part of the journey.
Hmm.
Like it's for me how much of a change it was has just been really hard to make that unconscious. And I'd probably
Hmm.
say we're still in the phase where it's very conscious.
Hmm.
The swing I'm putting on the ball or trying to put on the ball is a very, I'm still being super aware of what my body is doing, which then potentially is limiting my other stuff like Jack mentioned there, I'm still probably very inside my head about what I'm trying to get my body to do, rather than visualizing ball flight and doing the other things well. But I'm sure I know that will come in time.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's bloody hard to change your swing, and it takes a lot of patience. And the main one for me is structure. Like, there's no way I would be able to go through this without having some sort of plan and idea of why we're doing the things we're doing, what we're doing, and how that can help. And that's where Jack or good coaches out there are instrumental, because if they can actually lay out a kind of a step by step of what you're doing and explain to you why you're going to do it, hopefully you're going to be more likely to actually stick through it and come out the other end.
For
From
sure.
someone who's watched that journey unfold, and obviously we play together semi regularly, what's interesting for me now is like when I play with you, I can see you make it. Like, I hate this idea of like old swing, new swing, but like I can see when you make the move.
Yes.
I'm gonna call it the move,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I can see when you make the move, and I can see the result of you making that move. But it's more like I can just kind of see when you've done it, and it just looks different.
Yeah.
But you can still see the old move or ingrained
Of course.
move creep in,
100%.
and it's really interesting that it's not like, obviously if Jack was watching, he'd probably be able to like further like decipher what's going on there. But like for me, I can distinctly see like the swing that you make, and sometimes it's really hard to explain, and maybe I need to like just like pull you away from hitting the shot, but you can almost see before the swing's even been made. I can almost tell if you're gonna like, this is gonna be a good swing. Like you can almost see it.
Yeah.
So it's been fascinating for me to watch from the outside. Like, I've not spent tons of time with you when you've been practicing, and I don't know the full ins and outs of what it is you're doing, but
Yeah.
I can just see the difference, and it's really fun to like watch that evolve. And I think you're giving yourself a disservice. I think you are taking it to the golf course.
Me too.
I think I've seen a lot of good stuff happening.
Yeah.
It's probably just that final portion now of
Yeah.
you kind of.
I think it's really interesting.
Together.
It goes back to what you mentioned earlier about the stock shots and how you rarely stood over a ball putting a stock swing on a shot. So the ones for me now, I know, revert maybe back to the old move, are when it is like severely into wind, and I'm trying to potentially change the ball flight or take something off it. That's potentially when now I'm trying to focus on something else. I get less actually like, what is my swing doing, and then it kind of then crumbles apart. But like, we've just not done a lot of that, and I just think that the main word would be patience for people that are going through this. Like, especially at my sort of like skill level, in how many years I've been playing, I definitely think you just have to be patient and trust it. Whereas I'm sure Jack gets people in all the time that
so true.
commit to a move for maybe like 3-4 weeks, maybe even less than that, and then come back and say, not working, we've got to try something else.
Yeah. I mean,
I had a go on, Jack. You go.
I was gonna say, I actually think Sam is in such a finishing stage of his sort of technical journey, and this is often quite a difficult part of the journey, because now you're really trying to get rid of these like internalized thoughts. I often call it like, this is like the stage where you're learning to let the hands go, learning to let the swing take over, and this is a hard stage. Like, this is where you start to learn to trust yourself. And some people never get past this stage. Some people will constantly hang on for dear life for their whole entire golfing career and just never improve. But like, this stage is when golfers are made, to be honest with you. They start to like play golf shot a little bit more, and just trust what they're doing, and not try to control every little micro movement while you're swinging. But that will that will come this year. I'm certain of it. Like, the swing's in such a better place. It's gonna be exciting. And if you're not if you haven't seen Sam's journey, it's on his Instagram. You'll be able to keep track of it. He's documenting all on there. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think one bit I was going to add to that, like, and maybe this will kind of be the next stage, I think, for you, Sam, actually, when this last bit gets done and you start hitting varieties of shots like you were talking about. And I think you were actually there for this moment, so this story is actually going to be a little bit more interesting for you. But I remember one of the time, you might remember, Jack, I came to see you down at Ogbourne, and you said one of the only ways you're going to get better from here is to now really be able to play in the wind. He was like, that this is like, you need to get better at playing in the wind, and you need to have control of your iron shots, and you need to be able to fly in shots into greens. And I remember that really think. Well, anyway, I did a little bit of technical stuff on like trying to control ball flight a little bit, trying to get ball flight down a little bit, trying to like flight things down and get some more speed. We did a little bit of wedges, put up the irons. And I remember coming away from it, and the amount of times that I thinned shots straight through the green for like a year on from that. Like, I'd obviously pick my moments, but I'd be like, right, I'm gonna really try and like get this one in. And I knew what I needed to do, and I was getting better at practice, and still I was just fucking thin. I was just jetting these things through the back. I was like, I'm gonna get. And I remember staying on a par through, it was at Nebworth actually, Sam, if you probably remember, it was on the 8th hole.
Yeah, no, I know which one. Yeah.
And I hit this 6-iron in, and it finished like a couple of foot. And I was like, there it is.
Weirdly,
There
I
it
remember
is.
that, and I wasn't even there because you sent me a picture of the shot and you said, I found it.
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah,
I've got
I could tell how sad that was. And that will be now probably about 10 months on from that.
Okay.
So probably about 10 months on. So we probably had that conversation 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That was probably 10 months ago. I probably hit that shot. I would now say 75% of my approach shots are lower flighted,
Yeah.
knocked in, extra club, lower it down, juice it down. Like,
Yeah. We've learned it.
that's mental to think that now is a case.
Yeah.
When I'm thinking about talking here, I'm like saying, well, what if you want to drop one high, drop one low, whatever. I wouldn't even have that conversation before we had that on-course situation of like, well, you need to just get better at flight and stuff. You need to get better at controlling your distance. You need to get better at controlling your height. And like, since we had that conversation, I've worked hard on it. Now, like, very few approach shots that I hit are stock shots.
Yeah.
For that reason, like, if I can, I am trying to flight things in, knock things down, like, because the just control is just so much better with that. So, yeah, it's interesting. I think you don't always have. It's not necessarily swing changes always. It's learning new shots,
Definitely.
learning new skills.
Yeah.
But almost the process of integrating those new shots and those new skills is almost as hard as a swing change, to be honest, because like we've been chatting recently, because I've been trying to have a slightly different, more like bomb style driver shot where I kind of let the hands go a little bit more and send it, but you can sometimes hit it left. That's hard.
Yeah. So guess what? You don't use it when you can't miss left.
There you go.
There you go.
Exactly.
It's interesting.
And it's just like a integration thing of new shots and new ideas, which I think is actually just the same as changing your golf swing, essentially. Very similar principles.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Same short game. You might learn a new short game shot.
Definitely.
Like, I've learned how to do a little low spinners. You might try a little low spinners and thin it through the green.
You also,
That's going to be part of it. You've got to pick
Yeah.
times to start to implement this stuff, right?
yeah, what else you got to do when you learn a new short game shot? You got to learn the ball speed. You got to learn the spin rate. You got to learn
You've got to practice, yeah.
how
You
to
got
land
to-
it in spots. Like it's
Or
just
what
not as
position
sim-
can you do that
Yeah.
in? What lie do I need to
Yeah.
hit that shot? What's it
Can-
like? There's so many variables to this stuff.
Defo.
Um,
Defo.
And I think swing change is a similar concept in terms of us having to actually at some point just give it a go.
Yeah.
Defo. Yeah, completely agree.
Just let
Completely
go
agree.
and just let go and do it.
Yeah. It's like I say, it's a tough old process. Changing things, taking it to golf course. It's all very, very difficult. But if you stick to a process and you commit to it, it does work. And just trust it. But like let's always go back to the original point of make sure you have a why for why you're doing it. Make sure you have a reason. Make sure there is a backed, scientific, reasonable reason for doing it. Like they can't be just I fancy doing it.
Yeah.
Just fancy.
I think
having more
stats
laid off
aren't enough
swing.
either, right? I don't think stats are enough either, because the stats don't explain why. Well, a poor swing is not the only reason why you can have poor stats.
Yes, 100%. You need to break it down. You have to break it down, and we always say to our client, we want I don't really want to know if you've hit a bad shot unless you can tell me you've fully committed mentally first, right? So that's always the order, right? So even if you are about to make a swing change, let's just check it's not something mental first. Let's get the mental game in order. Let's make sure we're visualizing the shot. Let's make sure, and then if you can't execute on that, even after doing really good stuff there with the mental and physical and visualizing, then maybe we can start looking towards a little bit of a technical change, shifting path, shifting phase, shifting whatever we need to do. Look towards that, but make sure you do it in the correct order, 100%.
Yeah,
I want to do that as the
quite
next
well.
one. Next podcast, me, I would really want to do that. I want to do why, or all the things you can do that is not a swing change.
Yeah.
To get better.
Yeah.
My God, that's
How
a
long
lot.
have you got?
That's a lot.
We'll block out 2 hours next
I
week.
mean, to be honest, we talk quite a lot about golf swing on here, but I mean, if you actually have ever worked with me, you probably know I actually pull most people away from like golf swing.
Yep.
In all honesty, like obviously we're talking to
I
Sam
think people
here.
get that vibe from what we've spoken about. Like,
Yeah.
I think that is pretty obvious.
Sometimes because we talk about Sam's journey and stuff, like it sounds like we maybe are slightly, but yeah, I think it's definitely the last thing I try to care about, but some people obviously just require that move and require the change.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And sometimes it's just vital. It's just vital, and it always, to be honest, in most people's journey, it will always be vital. Some people are born to hit a golf club and never change the golf swing ever, and they're good for them. But like majority of people are not that lucky, unfortunately.
I think we'll cover that in good detail. I think the next one. 'Cause I think there's loads of stuff we can go into there.
Yeah, I
for
like
sure.
that one.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's quite an exciting one for the people, and it's actually quite a nice one for them to adapt and take into their practice routines. We can probably give them quite a lot of good stuff to really work on without having to think about their over the top move or whatever it might be. Yeah, so a lot
for
more.
sure.
Yeah, I like that. Good, good. Anything else, boys? Any other points you want to cover?
No, I think that was pretty in depth
feel?
there. We covered everything.
Yeah. Very good.
Agreed.
Very good. Very good. So,
You've got to talk about the performance audit, Jack.
yeah, the performance audit. Where can we find the performance audit? The actual.
I'm glad you asked.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So if you head to macrogolfonline.co.uk, you will see everything you need there. If you want to jump straight to it, you can do /scorecard, and that will take you directly to the Macro Golf Performance Audit. And all you need to do is just take about 3 minutes to answer, I think it's like 50 questions, and you will receive a full personalized report on your golf game, your habits, routines, your tendencies, all that stuff around your golf game, and we will give you a little bit of a breakdown on what we recommend you do to get better right now. And in fact, a lot of those things we'll probably cover next week on that podcast actually, so that'll be even better there, because we're going to talk about practice, we'll talk about mental game, we'll talk about fitness, we'll talk about strategy, and we'll talk about skill development as well, which actually is kind of like a separate kind of part from swing change. So yeah, all of those aspects we will be covering on the next podcast, so jump ahead over to macrogolfonline.co.uk /scorecard and go and get your results.
Love it. Another good chat.
Oh, and go and follow Jack on TikTok, because he's doing loads of good stuff on TikTok.
Yeah, I'm a TikTok creator now. That's what I do.
She does that. Yeah. So if you want to have a bit of fun.
There we go. Thanks again for listening, guys. Stay safe, and hopefully we'll catch you on the next one.